Welcome to Mythologies. My name's Jack Adams, and I'd like to introduce Simon Roper. Simon is a 22-year-old archaeology student based in England. He makes videos about linguistics and anthropology generally. He has an absolutely superb channel on YouTube. We thought we'd have a chat together and start to discuss some of the issues behind mythology, landscape, words that we use, sourcing from his specialist area, the Saxon period of English history.
How are you? Are you right?
Yeah, we just come back from a walk. We just went out for an hour and it lasted longer, and there was just this amazing fog. We live in a small village, and just outside the edge of the village, you know, there's walks straight into the Hertfordshire countryside.
Yeah.
And it's very sort of smooth hills with small rivers and things at the bottom. There's a lot of fog about, and the mist was very heavy. And I was standing there on a hillside looking down across a field, and you couldn't see anything. You could just about see to the end of the field. And I was saying to my wife, you've got to imagine what this was like 1,000 years ago when people were standing out here. There's no traffic noise. Listen to how quiet the birds are as well. There's not much noise, and suddenly the whole of your landscape and vision has magically disappeared within this fog.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
that's when, you know, they start to worry about spirits in the woods and fairies and goblins and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, when things can't be seen. I think one thing, I can't remember who it was. I wish I could. I might be able to find it and send you something afterwards. But there was a paper somewhere that was discussing Anglo-Saxon landscapes and how they sort of linked to toponymy and stuff like that. I should have got it up to talk about during this video, but it was about how certain types of landscape feature are connected to place names, and pits and hollows and things like that, places that aren't necessarily accessible immediately, were a big feature of a lot of place names. So the idea of not being able to access or not being able to necessarily see something I think was probably a very evocative thing, like you say.
Well, it's going to be, isn't it? I mean, the whole sort of role of magic in mythology and in human society probably is about the unexplainable or the unseen in some way, isn't it? So that when you physically can't see something, then psychologically you naturally move towards the realm of magic, don't you? Of the spiritual and what have you. But when I'm out there walking on the land, I get a really deep sensation of the history and the past, and especially with the water. We've talked previously about the ideas of water and how it connects to ideas of spirituality and the reflections, and how they must impinge upon consciousness of early cultures. And I'm looking at there's a lovely part of the walk where there's a stream which is basically just a ditch with some water in it that runs between two hills. But when it rains, it turns into a whole wetland. It floods right up, and it turns whole areas that are otherwise walkable into lakes with reeds and ducks and all sorts of, you know, and it's just a wetland. And that sort of transformation of the landscape I just find incredibly compelling to look at.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Was that where you sent me some pictures of a particular watery place? Yeah, that was very nice. There's a similar place near here. I never paid much attention to it until this year, because I was walking a lot. I've been walking a lot more this year because there's been nothing else to do. And as you say, it's become, even the paths, I don't think the paths are designed to accommodate the amount of rain we've had. So it ends up with even the human-made areas just being subsumed into this kind of impenetrable wetland, and often you can't get through the paths unless you're happy walking through water, which I was, if I'm prepared right.
Well met, fellow traveller.
Indeed.
You know, I mean, it brings out the little boy in me. You know, when I was young, I grew up near the Epping Forest,
Right.
so as a as a young kid, I used to go out and play in the forest all the time. You couldn't, it's too tempting not to go. And the favourite occupation was finding a little ditch or stream and building a dam.
Yeah.
There's just something about doing that sort of stuff. You just get drawn towards it. Where that wetland is, there's a path, and I'm fascinated by the paths round our way, because it makes me wonder how old some of these paths actually could be.
Yeah.
And there's a path that goes down across where the wetland is with a small wooden bridge, which is, it's contemporary because it's essentially 3 railway sleepers across a ditch.
Right.
But this path goes down from where our village is, and where it comes out is into a smaller, not so much a village, more I've forgotten what you call it, where you just get a very small collection round a farm.
A little hamlet kind of.
A hamlet, much more like what we would call a hamlet. And this path goes across the wetland, but when it's in flood, the bridge is 2-3 feet beneath the water.
Yeah.
And you lost all the track goes, which I find fabulous.
Does the hamlet then just become inaccessible other than by?
No, there's other ways around, obviously, but not across the wetland area.
Yeah.
And as we know that historically, wetlands are where people would hunt, especially duck and other snipe and stuff like that.
Yeah,
obviously
waterbirds
gathering
were a very big
fish.
thing.
Yeah.
The Anglo-Saxons hunting waterbirds, yeah.
Really? Is there a lot of record on that?
There's a lot in the archaeological record on sort of higher status settlements. You find lots of big game bone, but on lower status settlements and throughout the entire archaeological record, you find a lot of waterfowl that have been hunted and are in sort of cooked deposits and things like that. So that's, yeah, and it's almost as if you're being, it kind of reminds you when the wetland becomes inaccessible that you're sort of being given permission to be there for the rest of the time. Almost as though it's not somewhere we're necessarily supposed to be, but we're being allowed there, and then sometimes we're not allowed there.